Okay, let's do a deep dive on the relationship between Robb Stark and Theon Greyjoy, because boy do they have an interesting and complicated and tragic relationship. Theon arrived at Winterfell as a ward of the Starks because his family, the Greyjoys, had tried to rebel and they failed, and part of the punishment was Ned Stark's going to take your youngest son, and essentially Theon was a hostage. He was there to make sure House Greyjoy behaved themselves. That had to be awkward because Theon was like 10 when this happened. It wasn't like he was a little itty bitty boy. He remembered his home and he was, in effect, snatched from it. But Ned Stark did make a conscious effort to include Theon within his growing family. Theon was raised alongside the other Stark children and he was given an education, he was given somewhere to live, he was treated as well as could be expected of someone in his position. Theon is a couple of years older than Robb and Jon Snow. For Theon, this feeling of never really being part of the family, it's always there, lurking in the background. He never felt completely accepted because of how he came to be at Winterfell in the first place. It was not a willing thing. But he did have a pretty close relationship with Robb, a deep friendship. They were as close as brothers could be. They were lads together, they would fight and train together. And when the time came for Robb to be king in the north and call the banners, Theon is overjoyed. He's excited. He can't wait to get going. He's completely supportive of Robb. He is right there by Robb's side, like he is his wingman. But that old wound of Theon not being accepted, that starts to reopen. All thanks to Balon Greyjoy, Theon's father, who really sticks the knife in. When Theon returns home to the Iron Islands to bring a deal to his father mocks him and is like, "You've changed." Theon does not feel like he belongs to House Greyjoy or to House Stark. He's in limbo. He's desperate for acceptance, and Balon gets into Theon's head. Theon wants to prove himself to his father as a worthy member of House Greyjoy, that he's really a Greyjoy at heart, and he betrays Robb in the process when Theon takes Winterfell. Had Theon not gone home and not had this conversation with his father, who deliberately honed in on what bothered Theon the most, the thing that hurt him, this feeling of not belonging, Balon exploited that. He wound Theon up. Had he not done that, had he not gotten into Theon's head, I don't think Theon would have betrayed Robb because he did love him so much. But Balon, he tapped into that feeling, that pain stuffed deep down inside of Theon, saying, you were abandoned, nobody wanted you, and you've got to prove yourself. It's a sick, twisted game that Balon is playing with his child. And Robb, he can't believe it. He's like, I never thought Theon would do this to me. Now, Lady Catelyn, she had her suspicions about Theon for a long time. But Robb, he was like, I can't believe he did this. We're meant to be close. Like, how could he? Then Theon learns of what happened to Robb at the Red Wedding. And when he's going through his own personal hell at the hands of Ramsay Bolton, all of this guilt comes flooding back to Theon. He has this enormous fall from grace. He has this period where he is weak. And it's during this time that Theon has big regrets about what he did to Robb. In Book 5, A Dance with Dragons, Theon thinks about Robb, who was more than a brother to Theon than any son born of Balon Greyjoy's loins. Murdered at the Red Wedding, butchered by the phrase, I should have been with him. Where was I? I should have died with him. That's how badly Theon regrets turning his back on Robb. And he takes what he's gone through, this trauma and torture at the hands of Ramsay, almost like, well, this is what you get. You turned on the person you were the closest to. Almost like what he's experiencing as Reek was punishment. And he thinks, I betrayed my brother, I should have been there with him. Maybe things could have been different. Or at the very least, I would have still been by his side. When he fell, he wouldn't have felt alone. I would have at least been there. And now Theon has survived at the hands of Ramsay Bolton. And it's like now he wants to make good. He wants to redeem himself. He knows he made a huge mistake and he wants to make it up to Robb in some way. Not many characters can own up when they are wrong. We don't see it very often, but Theon, he admits it. He's like, I made a huge mistake. I will say his portrayal on Game of Thrones, the TV show, firstly, Alfie Allen was just spectacular, but also Theon's entire story arc, for me, I loved it. It was one of the best ones on the entire show because it was very true to book Theon. This regret stemming from having stabbed your best friend, your brother, in the back. But Theon wants to put it right, and he's still alive in the books, so there's plenty of time for him to still do that. He can now try and be the guy that Robb saw he could be. Robb saw his potential. Robb very much cared for Theon. He did think of him as a brother. And Theon betrayed him. But now he has a chance to become that man, to become what Robb thought you could be. Theon Greyjoy, I am rooting for you.